Hello, my friends. Welcome to the metal shop. Part two here of my Green Meanie build. And you see from the photo I've placed at the beginning of this video, we've had a slight change in plans. I've decided to make this the Alcatraz very beginning of the David Lee Roth Band version of the Green Meanie, as seen in that Carvin ad. So the paint was still nice on it. He had double cream DiMarzio in the bridge, a black single coil, and a double pink in the neck, which I already have. Finding a black and pink meant a custom order, which would have added, $35 or so to it. This one was readily available, so I'm doing this for two reasons, okay? A, because it's easier, not ready to, do the aging to it, sanding off the paint and scalloping out the horn and doing all of that. So it's more in line with what this guitar already is and the parts that I already have on hand, Chrome Floyd, the pickups that I just showed you. I do have a D'Addario Top of the Rock XL sticker like Steve has on his, which is really going to be, the cherry on top of this project there. So slight change in plans, but that, Carvin X100B ad, to me, that is what the Green Meanie is. And it just became more worn out and more worn out and more played in and beat up as it went along. So that's what I want to do. And I have done a couple of things. You'll see this is taped out of the way. I touched up all of the shielding paint in there because honestly it was rather sloppily applied. And I've noticed this a lot, on Charvel's, the Made in Mexico Pro Mod series, and even the Chibsons. They slap the paint in there on the bottom and they'll get some on the sides, but the corners will be left vacant or, barely covered. And the newsflash is, you guys know this, if it's not touching, it's not shielding, it's not connected. So it just takes a minute to touch it up and make it nice. I always keep some shielding paint, pick this stuff off of eBay. Always keep it mixed up, shake it every so often because you got to keep the shielding suspended in the paint. But I always have this in stock at the metal shop. I applied True Oil to the neck, and I did find that the frets were rather tarnished, I guess is the word. A lot of gray came off the frets, and I had to real quick clean that True Oil off, so I wasn't really, pre-aging the fingerboard. For a new guitar, that was unexpected. But it came out nice. It feels great. You just apply it on. I put on a couple of coats and then let it sit for a little while, wipe it off, and there you go. Bob is your uncle. I've got a Floyd Rose 32 millimeter brass big block to install in the Floyd. And I've got something special planned for this recess here. And newsflash, I don't like recessed guitars, no matter what. And this is sacrilegious to the Green Meanie, which pretty much invented recessed guitars, recessed Floyd Roses on guitars. I'm going to have this blocked. So what did I make? I made my own monkey's claw. And all this is a piece of hardwood maple that I cut and sanded. I oversized it and sanded it to fit rather well into the cavity there. And then I use a round file, a round rasp, to cut the grooves in it. And between sanding it flat and cutting the grooves, I've got them all relatively uniform. And I'll just glue this. This will tack in place here, just a couple of drops of super glue. I am going to paint the furrows pink, just waiting for them to dry. And the cool thing was I had this paint on hand. I bought 3 cans of this because this was the only way I could find the color in these small hobbyist cans years ago for a project. And if you'll permit me a little tangent, a little story, I couldn't remember why I had that. And then around 2009, 2010, I had a Kawasaki Ninja, a ZX7, so a 750 Ninja, 1989. Nice bike. I ended up getting rid of it, a little too old for that, a little too uncomfortable, the riding position. I ran to this old timer who used to own a BMW dealership, and he was like, I mean, he cracked a joke. He's like, that riding position isn't good for doing anything but giving birth. And he was kind of right. Anyway, I had this for a project. Mine was in 89, and like in the 90, 91, they had, the Kawasaki had a neat little spoiler, just a teeny little spoiler on the flat deck behind. There was a cover that covered up the two-up seat, the passenger seat, and I had one of those. I still have it somewhere in the garage, this neat little spoiler, and that's what I bought this paint for. And to continue on my tangent even further, back in the mid-'80s, my dad worked with a guy named Scott Tassinari, and Scott was a pretty cool guy. He had a Boss 302, he had a Chrysler LeBaron Turbo, and he had the first Ninja that I'd ever seen, in the first Kawasaki motorcycle, street motorcycle I'd ever seen, in the Kawasaki green. And the way he explained it to me was, these were their racing colors, their Kawasaki's motocross racing colors, this green color. And Scott Tassinari raced motocross bikes for Kawasaki, and he had one custom made. He had a Ninja custom made for him in those colors. So did he come up with the idea to then make a bunch of Ninjas and Kawasaki's in those colors for the next 10 to 15 years? I'm not sure, but his was the first I've ever seen. He said it was custom made for him by Kawasaki, since he raced their motocross bikes. Just a cool story. Anyway, let's go to the time lapse. I'm gonna very, very delicately paint those furrows pink. We'll get the big block installed, and we'll just keep chipping away at it. All right, cool. All right, well, saw on the time lapse, got the Pickguard all wired up. I had to use the Dremel to ease the Pickguard here for the wagon wheel truss rod adjuster, which I hate. I really loathe those. I hate the way they look. Ruin the clean lines of Charvel, you know, looking like a fender, like a Charvel since the 50s, Charvel since the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Just despise the look of those. I don't mind taking the neck off to adjust, you know, the truss rod once, maybe twice a year. Despise that. Anyway, got it all wired up. Like I said, you saw me ease that. I had to ease this a little bit. It was pretty disappointing. This is an 8 screw Pickguard that I ordered from Warmouth that I know is right. And the holes, the majority of the holes are supposed to line up. This one's cut for a Floyd, so it should line up with the one that was on here. This should line up. This. They really didn't. You saw me drilling new holes. Very disappointing. And that's a testament to the cheap-ass Pickguard, that thin, wavy piece of junk that came on the Pro Mod here. Very disappointing. This is a nice, thick, beveled Pickguard. I've changed all the screws to black. It really looks nice. Everything fit in there great. Very, very happy with how this turned out. And it's just like you can see it taking shape right before your eyes. You put the Pickguard on, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this thing is the Green Meanie. Love it. I wanted to talk just for one quick second, because I forgot to mention it before when I got this paint. This Kawasaki green matches nearly perfectly. And I have some connections in the business that know Elwood. I'd love to reach out to him and ask him some questions about painting the guitar, because I think what they did was, I think they stripped the sunburst finish off, the red to yellow sunburst, as Grover called it. I think they stripped that off, and I bet you anything that Elwood went down to the home center, the hardware store, wherever, the paint store, and just got rattle can and sprayed it. I don't believe it was a professional paint job in a booth, you know, with, you know, the lacquers and the thinners and the hardeners and all that, based on how easily it wore off. So one last thing, I did get this done. Now that it's dried, it looks much better. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it's pretty nice. And it's going to be mostly obscured here under the Floyd Rose. So you saw me drizzle some wood glue in there. Nothing spectacular. What I want is the wood glue is really going to stick to this, not so much to the painted surface. And I purposely didn't score or scratch it, because if you want to remove this, you know, a couple of quick taps with the hammer should take care of it. But it fit in there pretty tightly previously, and now that it's painted, it is, yeah, no, there we go, good. Just like that. I'm not going to clamp it. I'm not going to do anything. That's in there where it needs to be. I purposely put a little bit of extra little dollops of glue there to kind of take up any space. None is squeezing out, and just look at that, my friends. That is amazing. The pickups, the claw, and it was originally painted pink when they refinished the guitar green, and Elwood routed it out with, I've heard it called the lion's claw, and I've heard it called the bear's claw, whatever, but it was pink as seen in the carven ad. So that's how I want mine to look. And I'm also going to put a little block in here once I get the Floyd in place, if I need one, because I did put the big block on, and it does take up a little bit of that space. So I may get a blocked setup just as it is. So I'm going to close out right now, not for the entire video. I still got just a couple more things that I want to show you before we're completely done closing out part 2 of my Green Meanie build. I hope you're really enjoying this as much as I do. It's like, just wow. It's just amazing. I love it. All right. Well, just got a few things left to do here, my friends. We need to get the tuners swapped out, get the Floyd reinstalled, and get this thing strung up. Let's see, I've left the strings on here. Super convenient. So, as I've stated before, I really dislike these tuners with no set screw. And I'm sure it's really easy for the factory in Mexico or wherever to, you know, they get a template or however they do it, or the neck is drilled with those two little post holes so that the tuner just slides in. I just can't stand the look of those. They have to go. So it's kind of ironic. I have a set here. I actually bought these for a replica of Steve Ferris's guitar that I made for myself. And his had black tuners on it. But I bought the chrome. I made a mistake. And if those who know about the connection between Steve Ferris's guitar and this one, and I'll discuss that probably in a future video. But this is what I want. These are Jackson label tuners, which is fine. These are Godos. They're made by Godo, but they have the set screw, and that's what I want. So let's set the guitar aside very quickly. And I picked these up from Eccentric Guitars on eBay. And I wanted, the tape is, Steve Vai's Green Meanie had green tuners. And I believe his were just painted green. And I think it was just the backs were painted completely green. The posts sticking through were still chrome. And I'll insert a few pictures here, a close-up of Steve's guitar. And then I'll also insert some pictures of my good friend Brian's guitar. He made an outstanding replica and simply painted the tuners. I think he scuffed them up and shot them. Anyway, I'll insert those replicas, those pictures here just for some reference. Anyway, I picked these up from Eccentric Guitars on eBay. These are resin tuner buttons, and they weren't super cheap, $4.95 a piece, but not super expensive either. What are these, glued in here, stapled in here? They put a little drop of glue to hold them in here. Pretty nice, nice packaging. Yeah, look at those. Pretty nice. They're not exactly going to match Steve's because his are... It's funny because the Green Meanie is... What color is it? It's not exactly fluorescent green. It's not exactly like the Dweezil green, the chartreuse green. It's almost like a lighter British racing green. Anyway, these should work the trick. These are nice. Not exactly like what Steve had, but I just think these will look really cool. I'm just going to give we'll do a quick little test fit here before we move to the time lapse. Make sure everything works as it should. We got the little wave washer, don't want to lose that. Let's see, do they fit a little? No, I guess it's about the same. I think we're going to be in the money here. Yeah, that's going to tighten down nicely. Oh yeah, look at that. That's cool. Like I said, in the pictures, you can note in the pictures, none of them are really great, but you can definitely see from Steve's that the tuner button's painted and the shaft is painted. So what I'm thinking is they probably like did the thing where they like stuck this in a box and painted the whole thing. But anyway, I'm gonna use these. Really nice. Again, Eccentric Guitars. They're on eBay. They have tons of different styles. You know, hot pink. They have probably 20 different colors. They're all about $4.95 or $5.95 a piece. So, you know, 30, 35 bucks for a set. Anyway, let's cut to the time lapse. We'll get the Floyd reinstalled, get these tuners swapped over, and that should be wrapping it up. All right, cool. All right, well, you probably saw me fumbling through there in the time lapse. The best laid plans, laid to waste once again. The green tuner buttons did not work on the Jackson tuning keys. They went on, you tightened them up, but I should have noticed when you put the resin tuner button on, it didn't have the flats in the right place and would spin freely. When you tighten up the nut, it would spin and turn the post, but once it's mounted in place and you try to spin it on with a tuner, it would just spin the tuner button off. So I just on a whim, I tried it on the Charvel tuners, which have a shorter shaft through this area and a stubbier little area where the tuner button goes on, and they fit on there perfectly. So I had to make a change on the fly and stick with the Charvel tuners that I wasn't super duper thrilled with in the first place. Such is life, but I really wanted to use those green tuners, and I was like, I panicked for a second. I'm like, gosh, am I going to have to take off, am I going to have to use these tuners and paint them? I mean, I wasn't really prepared to do that. I suppose I could. Maybe I still will. I don't know. But no, I like these. So anyway, that worked. Let's see if we can't get this set up on the fly here and do the pièce de résistance to finish out this guitar. All right, here we go. So I wanted to make this, exact replica of the God Bless video or the Carvin ad Green Meanie from this era, early David Lee Roth Alcatraz days. So I was able to find the last Diodario XL's Top of the Rock sticker available. And it's funny that someone had sold a lot of 4 of these, like literally 2 weeks before I started looking. And I asked the Charvel forum and the Made in USA Charvel forum what the sticker was, because I didn't know. This predates me a little bit. I was actually using boomers back in those days, not the Diodarios. And what I think Steve had done here, why he stuck this on, is the guitar points right to the input jack. And maybe that's what he did, so it was easier to find the input jack. I'm not sure. It kind of seems out of place to have just the one sticker there. I mean, later he would cover the entire thing with stickers, but he threw that one on. He didn't. These were tools to him. He really didn't care. So anyway, I was able to find one of these. I got this cleaned up with isopropyl alcohol and buffed. I went to the medicine cabinet, almost grabbed my wife's nail polish remover, which is straight up acetone, which would not have not have done this guitar any favors whatsoever. So let's get this stuck on there. This is an old sticker from the 80s, so hopefully it's got the corners aren't in great shape, and who knows how this adhesive is. Let's do that. Okay, I see how they do it, so that's nice. We can put some tape witness marks here. Again, things are all different. My input jack may be in the wrong spot. My pickguard may not be exactly like his. Steve's didn't have the route, whereas mine does, and I didn't want the sticker to go over the route. A lot of factors go into this. Steve just slapped it on. He didn't care. No, that's where it's going to lead. That's where it's going to be. It's not perfectly straight. So be it. You want the circle all the way on the guitar. Now this isn't going to come off. Old sticker. Try and get it on there with no bubbles. Oh, there's another. Try and get it not touching the pickguard. I have a feeling that this old adhesive this thing will be on here. You're never getting it off without ruining the sticker. Put a little fold in it there, probably unavoidable. Such is life. Good enough for rock and roll? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. There we go. There we go. And there you have it, my friends. There is my hyper accurate, as accurate as I could make it, replica of Steve Vai's Green Meanie. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm planning on a video, hopefully a little bit shorter, maybe a 12 to 15 minute video on the history of Steve Vai's Green Meanie. I have reached out to Elwood Francis. We do have a friend in common, but so far, crickets from him. I don't know if he's just super busy or if I'm getting big timed by the rock star. I'm just kidding. I jest. But he has not gotten back to me. Been about a week, but I think I can go ahead and make the video without his input. So as always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Truly do appreciate your support. Truly appreciate the view. Hit me up in the comments. Still respond on my comments. Please give the video a thumbs up. What are we doing here? There we go. Give the video a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new, if you enjoy the content. Really trying to provide interesting video that like-minded guys like us, you're into this guitar, you're going to love the channel. All right, my friends, again, truly appreciate your support. Thanks a lot. There's the Green Meanie for the win.